Apologies that we're starting late, everybody. We were in executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular individual, and we are now back. So I just wanted to start the meeting by giving the PTA and all of the community members a huge thank you for their advocacy on behalf of the school to get the GEA funding restored. Whether they sent a letter, tapped the click here button, just talked about it, made some phone calls, did it this year, last year, the year before, all of them. It's huge and it helps, and I know Dr. Bowers and Ann will talk more about our budget, but we have good news to report, and I think that our advocacy has something to do with that. So thank you to everybody who took the time and the energy to do that. It makes a difference. And I'm going to turn it over to Ann and Dr. Bowers so they can share the good news and talk about our budget.
Good. Well, as Jen said, we received the final version of the state run on April 1st, and it was not an April Fool's Day joke, which was a little bit of a worry. It was kind of an unusual budget run that we hadn't seen in the past because there was a return of the GEA within the primary component of the budget run, and then there was a separate amount that was pulled out of it, which we'll talk about. But long story short, we got the full GEA back. So we have $220,000 of funding coming back to the district that was GEA instead of just the 67. We still got no increase in foundation aid. The only other aids that increased are the ones that were expense-driven, meaning that we used some of our money one year, and then we'll get the additional support the following year through BOCES aid or transportation aid. And so Ann will share much of the good news, and then I'll kind of chime in about where we're talking about putting the additional funds. So.
And I just want to interrupt that. That's a really good point for everyone to know that we are. Although it will be spun politically, that the state is giving a whole bunch of additional money to the schools. That's not actually what's happening. Our state aid is flat. This is just us being brought to whole, basically, for 2008.
Correct.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so tonight I'll talk a little bit about the state budget. We'll just continue the conversation that we just did, and the rest of the presentation will just really be reminders of what we've been talking about the last few meetings, the highlights that it's important for everybody to remember for this year's budget proposal. First, we'll start with the state budget. This is what we've already said already, that Haldane has received no increase over the 15-16 foundation aid. We've really been flat since 2007-8. Maybe $7,000 has come our way in increased foundation aid since that time, and you know it's really sad that there's been no formula changes enacted for the expense-driven aids. It's the same percentages that we've been getting. Whatever we would spend in 1 year, our state aid is reimbursed at the same level that it has been the year before. Some changes to the STAR program that will possibly affect some of our taxpayers. Right now, New York State pays school districts for the STAR benefit if you're eligible, depending on your property ownership. And then the school district sends the taxpayer a reduced tax bill. We net out the STAR reimbursement because it's sent directly to the school district. Starting in 16-17, if you're a new homeowner, If you just purchase a home, or if you change ownership, and even if you stay in Cold Spring, or the Haldane district, and you move from one property to another, if you're considered a new homeowner, you're not going to get that reduced tax bill anymore. You're going to get your STAR benefit as a New York State income tax credit rather than your reduced bill from the district. So you'll be grandfathered in. If right now you're getting your STAR rebate as a reduced tax bill, you'll continue to do that. New homeowners will not. They'll be getting the full tax bill and have to wait until the following year to get a credit on your tax return. Yes. What a bit of good news is that in the governor's executive proposal, the basic and enhanced STAR reimbursements were supposed to stay flat. They weren't going to allow any increase on that. That proposal was rejected. So the STAR amount can go up. It's not going to, there's still going to be a cap on it, but at least it won't be a zero increase. So as we were just excited to talk about, is that the gap elimination adjustment has been eliminated.
What are you going to do next year with the budget slides without the GEA
We'll
on
have
the
to
slides?
come up with something, I guess.
She was looking for one where it came down and hit something on the head, but it.
Last year the money was, or last week the money was falling, and I was trying to find one where it actually fell on somebody, but there was nothing that was really a nice representation of the. No, so I just, had to go in a different direction there. So. So we can say goodbye to the GEA because the law does say goodbye GEA. That it is in the law that the gap elimination adjustment is gone for 16-17 school year and thereafter, so that if the year after they can't say, oh, we're going to do the GEA again. They can't do that without a Senate and Assembly passing a new bill and the governor signing it. They can't just resurrect it. It's in law now. Our tax levy limit, the allowable levy increase for 16-17 is 0.73%. And as a general rule, if you've gotten your refund in the past for increases to your taxes, because we're staying within the tax cap, you'd be eligible for that again. For 16-17, the maximum is $135. If you're in the metro commuter area, which we are, the taxpayer is not going to get higher than that, but the tax rate increase is about the same as the levy increase. It's going to be about 0.78%, so the taxes aren't going to go up a lot anyway, so your reimbursement should be within that cap. Just to touch on other revenues that make up our budget, besides state aid and taxes, we do have some refunds of prior year expenditures, donations. The third largest category in our budget is tuition from other districts, specifically Garrison Union Free School District, because the students have the choice. One of their choices for high school is Haldane, and we do charge tuition for that. We're not going to see any change in the estimated tuition revenue for 16-17 because we anticipate right now we have the commitment of the same amount of students will be coming in as are graduating.
Which
So
is 12?
12.
Yeah.
So, but sometimes things change. Over the summer, people change their mind or they designate Haldane. So that revenue could go up, but right now, for our budget purposes, it's flat. So the current budget proposal is $23,098,874. That's slightly under 1% spending increase from the prior year, and that figure includes all of the enhancements that we have been describing over the past couple of months in the budget development process.
But it still is only 0.73 for the tax levy increase.
Correct. The increase is being afforded through that gap
GA.
elimination.
Now, I just want to point something out, and we're not sure exactly where it's going to go, but on our budget run, it gives the bottom line proposal of the 23 million as it's here today. But it also gives a final GEA payment that's been backed out of that. And so we weren't sure exactly what that meant, because within the actual run itself, it says that we're getting 128,000 of the GEA back, and then the additional 91 is on the bottom. And we're trying to speculate why they didn't just put the entire GEA in the run. And my assumption is that they will then add it in next year, so it looks like we're getting additional money next year, as opposed to just putting it all in this year. And so I'm not really sure the purpose of it, and I guess there are a couple of different things that people are speculating, but we don't know why 91,000 was still pulled out and not added into the calculation.
When does the district typically receive aid from the state? Does it all come in a lump sum at the beginning of the year, come after the?
Well, I'll let Ann
Yeah,
talk about
yeah.
it. It happens throughout.
We'll
It
get
happens throughout
state
the-
aid payments throughout the year. It depends, our STAR reimbursement depends on how big your school district is. That's over $1 million. That comes to us in January in one lump sum. It's throughout the year. We get certain percentages. There's a payment schedule. It really hasn't changed in years. So the $128,000 that's within the state aid run will just be on the regular payment schedule. That 91,000, I'm speculating that we're probably going to wait till the end of the year to get that, because it's called the final payment.
So June
As
30th.
long as they can give it to us in that year. Right. And it's very possible that they could hold out till the following September, and they can just make it an accounts payable to us. They could say, this is your 16-17 aid, but they're not going to, they're going to use the money as long as they can, and I think that's why it was separated in that way.
Subtracted from it on the run as well.
They do, but I have confirmed with several sources that it is completely returned to us in 16-17.
Sometime, yep.
So this is the list of the enhancements and additions that we've been talking about to the 16-17 budget. To date, we've already gone over these. Dr. Bowers, I don't know if you want to elaborate on any of them.
Yes, so we will continue to expand our opportunities for our teachers, for our strategic plan. And one of the things that we have in this budget is our contract with the New Tech Network, which is a 5-year contract. This is the first year we're presently in, so it will be 4 years in addition. And I'll talk a little bit about it now. I know that you asked. Basically what it is a contract that pays for the visits that we make outside the district. And this summer we will have a number of our teachers going to Florida to the New Tech Network Institute that will be bringing people from all over the world. And last year there were over 2,000 teachers and administrators that were there. This year it would be about the same number. And as new schools start phasing in, as our district is, we will be put with other new schools with similar demographics. Last year, the group that went, last year it was in Chicago, the district that they were paired with was from Australia. And it had basically the same demographics as Haldane. So they were able to do some comparative analysis of the districts. So we are moving into our second year. Grades 4, 5, and 6 went into the planning stage this present year. Next year, they're going to be going into the launch phase, where they actually are going to be really implementing at a greater level the deeper learning and the authentic learning experiences that they've started. We will have 3 new grades that will phase into the planning stage next year. So we'll have 3 in the planning stage and 3 in the launch stage. And then the following year, we'll have the additional grades that, bless you, that are part of it that will phase in. So it is a multi-year process. What we did there, the years that we have multiple groups phasing in obviously makes sense that it would be more expensive than years where you only have three grades versus 9 grades. So the way that the New Tech Network does their calculations, you can either do the cost every year or they amortize it over the loan, which I'm sorry, with the contract. So which is what we did, and that's $57,000 a year over the multi-year period, and that will really phase in the entire district. So we will have our teachers that will have opportunities to go places. This year we had teachers that went on visits to schools that were well into their development process. We sent our principals to a leadership institute. We have staff developers that are coming to us at the end of April and starting the teacher residency, where they actually come into classrooms and they work with the teachers within the classrooms within the district. And then in the summer, we'll be sending a group down to Florida to really start that process along too. So there are many moving parts, and we'll continue to tell you where we are as the years go on. But this is really the staff development, the focus, and the stages of development that we plan on going through. So it will be year 2 of our contract with them. We are continuing our co-teaching opportunities.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
the New Tech Network? So I was sharing with the board how Stacia Snow came to our PTA meeting recently, and I found it really valuable to meet her and hear her talk. Is there any plans for her to be able to talk to the board or at a board meeting, or to do more talk with the parents?
Sure.
What's the,
Well,
I don't know if that's in the contract or anything.
Yeah.
but-
No, we can certainly do that. We are transitioning trainers, so we are going to have trainers that are coming to us that we haven't met. And we will actually have 2 trainers that are coming in. One will work with the teachers, and then, and I didn't mention this, so I'm glad you asked that question, because one will work with our coaches. And so right now we have 2 teachers on assignment. We have Simon Dudar, who's working in a co-teaching experience with our teachers. We also have Leah Horn, who's doing the IT component. And we're looking at having somebody that's going to be helping with the learner profile. So there'll be a learner profile coach that will also have kind of a leadership experience. So besides the teachers being trained, we are now getting a coach trainer that will come in and train the teachers that are moving into kind of this understanding and these teacher on assignments. And then as the New Tech Network phases out, they make sure that we have built capacity within the district so we can continue the process when they're gone. And so part of this is making us independent over this multi-year period. So when we hire new teachers, because if you think about it, we've done 2 years of training so far, and we're going to be hiring teachers that are going to be coming in and people have already been trained. So we have to have some way of, over the next many years, training the new teachers so they understand where we are. And that will start to happen within. And so, but yes, we can either bring the coach trainer or we can bring the teacher trainer to any type of presentation, meeting, whatever it is that you're looking for. So if you let me know, we'll arrange it.
Okay.
And then if we ever want to have Stacia back, I'm sure she'll come back too.
I was just going to
Maybe
suggest
just when she's.
maybe we can have Stacia do
similar talk that she did at the PTA meeting.
Mhm.
I thought it was genuine and it was helpful and.
I agree.
Okay, so just let me know what you're looking for, and
Well, does she come down again at some point, or is she's transitioning out, so she doesn't necessarily have like a training scheduled?
yeah, but I think if we invite her down, my assumption is that she'll be happy to come.
Okay, so maybe we could do it even at pre-board meeting, and then she could be here for a board meeting or something.
So we'll talk more about
Yeah.
that, what you want it to
No
look
rush,
like.
yeah.
Okay, so we also have our teachers on assignment. We talked about co-teaching opportunities with our DCI, or Discover, Create, and Innovate teachers. We are also going to have more co-teaching throughout the district, and we do have trainers that are coming in to help our teachers learn how to best co-teach in a learning environment. We're expanding innovative offerings, anything that is related, and the work that our teachers will be doing next year, that will continue. Grades 4, 5, and 6, where we are bringing a dedication to having one-on-one Chromebooks for our students that are in the classrooms with the teachers that are launching. And one of the things that was very evident from any of the visitations is there needs to be kind of a seamless ability to use Chromebooks as we move into Google. And so they have to have the opportunity to do that. So next year we will have, for both 4th, 5th, and 6th, it won't be one-on-one, but we'll have the availability of carts that can be used for our 4th, 5th, and 6th graders. And we also talked quite a bit about the creation of our alternative high school program. And I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year because we're just going to be launching. But next year, that's also a potential revenue stream because the consortium districts will be able to, if they have students that they would like to attend the alternative high school, that's an option. But first, we have to get underway.
Can we go back to the expand innovative offerings?
Yep.
What exactly are we thinking there?
Well, probably the biggest will be the coach, the learning coach for our learner profiles. And we have Paul Yellen that's going to come back to us, and we're doing our focus groups and really talking about what it's going to look like. And we're gauging 4, 7, and 9 as the place that the learning coach will start interfacing with our students. And so that's probably the biggest. We're going to be talking about some other opportunities, like the alternative high school would be another, and we'll talk about where we're going to be placing the GEA funds within the district, and that will take us into those positions as well.
Great.
Okay, so perfect segue. The money, the additional funds, we talked about these 3 areas at the last meeting that we would like to be able to support. And with the combinations, we are going to be hiring some special educators next year that are already within the budget that was proposed. But we're trying to figure out how to meet the needs of all 3 of these areas, and I think we'll be able to do it. And we're talking about hiring somebody for middle school reading support, and if we take one of the special ed teachers and divide it between 2 people, we could hire a full-time person to do middle school reading and half-time special ed. And that would give us, it's easier to hire and you get the best and the brightest when you're hiring full-time as opposed to a half-time person. And we're also looking at the other half-time special ed within one of those positions to potentially be linked with our learning profile coach. So again, you have 2 full-time equivalents, but we're including both a half-time learner profile coach and a half-time middle school reading.
That's interesting because the special ed they do IEPs all the time. So, and our learning profiles are a kind of a version of that.
Correct.
So that actually makes good sense that somebody who's familiar with the special ed process would be a good person for that. That's good.
Well, and we were, I mean, in making this move to the the learner profiles, it was really, this acknowledgement that, every single student can benefit from having that kind of, I feel like I had something else I was going to say because I'm just repeating what you said, but the idea of really expanding access to having profiles about your learning and strengths and weaknesses being available to all students and not just students who qualify for an IEP.
Right. And we were talking about with Dr. Yellen, one of the things we're going to be looking at is if we're going to have like different levels of learner profiles where the mainstream student who you want to teach who they are as learners and give them ways of enhancing their ability to learn, there may be one type of profile that's used for that student, and then a student that may need more support, a more intensive profile that's also linked to the IEP. And so, and it can be linked to the testing that's done for the student. And in both cases, the students will be taught who they are and how they can kind of bypass some of their weaknesses by using their strengths. And so this is all kind of weaved in together. And so we're going to be talking more about that, but we just think it makes sense to be hiring full-time versus half-time. And the other is that we know that we need some support, and this has kind of been an ongoing conversation of having a half-time person in one of the area of the arts. And we know that our teachers with music have really been spread thin, and we're also looking at other options, but we will have the funding for a half-time arts person, whether it's music or dance or theater or whatever it ends up being, that the funding is there.
And although this has nothing to do with revenue, I always like to put some little reminders at the end that don't forget about the vehicle proposition that will be out there. We'll be asking for 2 big buses with our one that failed unexpectedly this year and then one that's on our replacement plan. That we'll be buying, as we always do, through a ban. And we won't have to worry about a payment until 17-18 because we're not going to go for the ban until the summer, and we'll be into the new school year by then. Our library levy that was passed in May of 2015, just a reminder that this is every year the levy is put on your tax bills. You're going to pay. The levy will not go up unless, of course, there's another referendum. But this isn't something that has to be voted on every year. It was voted on in 2015, and it's ongoing. So I don't want it to be a surprise on everyone's tax bill when there's another line item for the library levy. And just a reminder, a little information that the contingent budget always looms over us, that if in the event voters reject the budget twice, the contingent budget states that there'll be no increase in the tax levy over the prior year, so we would have to reduce the budget by $134,757 because that's our maximum tax levy cap.
Can you ladies remind me where we're at with our schedule with the budget? When does the board need to adopt the official budget? Is that April 18th?
Yes.
Next meeting.
Next meeting.
Unless there's another one put in between. But the one that's scheduled next is when the board adopts.
And the additional educational enhancements that you're talking about, maybe a full-time special ed, an arts program person, blah, blah. Do we need to have that done, like concretely know exactly what you're going to be doing? Or can we, does that money just get lumped into like staffing?
It would be
And
put
we
into
just vote on
staffing.
it, right? So we don't need to know by April 18th exactly what you're going to decide, or
As far as for the arts piece?
or like, are you going to do a special ed halftime, or can you full-time, or that piece, like that can still be a little bit up in the air, right? We can vote on the budget, and in theory we know that the money will be going to these areas, but doesn't have to have all the kinks worked out yet.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
And then you need to tell us if you are ready for us to put it on the agenda next time for a vote, or if there's additional information you need between now and then.
Does anybody have any feelings about that in the moment?
We're
Do you-
gonna see it laid out with numbers, right?
Yes.
Before April 18th?
Well, we can get that to you
Is that-
whenever we have that. All the documents, so we'll send that. And and if there's any additional questions, but it's just done is you're just going to get line items. So you're going to have the same numbers with all the different line items. So that's ready.
And then there's like the full 18 page, I can't remember how many pages.
Yes, that's what you'll get.
Yeah, that's
That's ready to go.
Yeah, no, I think, I actually am with Margaret. I think having it a little bit early, I mean, you guys have done a great job of really presenting all the thinking that's gone into it, but it's a big document, and it gives us a chance to ask questions, so.
So just to clarify, we're looking for the max, the tax levy increase of 0.73. That's pretty much where we're looking at,
That's what's included in this proposal.
this proposal, okay. I have a question regarding the tuition. You talked about the tuition, how that's going to stay flat. And I know after it's not a large amount of money, but as far as just maybe a basic principle, like why is there a way we could build in, not necessarily for this year, but that the tuition is tied to the tax levy rate. So like if we're going to raise, if it's going to be a 0.73 increase, then if we had like a protocol that tuition is increased by the equivalent of whatever the tax rate increase is. I mean, would that seem reasonable?
I know that other districts do that.
Okay.
That's the contract. The contract is that it's the budget-to-budget increase or the tax rate increase, whichever is lower.
So that's already happening.
Right. It's really such a negligible amount that, it's almost flat, let's just
Right.
put it that way, but, it would be the same. I don't have the contract yet.
Okay.
Because I don't know exactly what the tax rate increase will be, but 12 students coming and 12 students leaving and less than 1%. That's why I kept it at that level.
But generally, that's what we do.
That generally is our understanding with the non-resident tuition rate. Yes.
And then one thing I should probably also remind you of, there will be hiring that will happen at the alternative high school. And will be, the funding for that is actually going to be generated by returning students to the district. So even though it's not listed, that will be new hires as well. But that's already embedded into the contract.
Okay, so it sounds like as long as we can get the 18-page document between now and the 18th, we should put it on the agenda for the 18th for approval.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to move into the superintendent's report, but maybe I should just ask if there's any questions from the public about the budget before we do that. Yeah. I can feel it.
I know. I want to ask.
We knew.
Well, yes. Hello. Hi, everyone. I do have a question. For the educational enhancements and the additions. I'm curious as the HFA president as well as a special ed teacher. I'm a little unsure about the way that it is described. It's not clear in my head. So when we received the email, you had said that because of the GEA restoration, that we'll be able to restore, a certain number of part-time positions that have been cut or been sorely needed. So as far as that is concerned, are you referring to the arts program enhancement? That's like
Those 3 halftime pieces that were just up there. The learning profiles coach, the
Okay.
arts, and the middle school reading, which was cut.
which had been cut, right?
Yes.
Okay, but so these are not 3 part-time positions. That's a part that I'm confused about. So, because you had said that that we're looking to hire 1 or 2 special ed teachers for the 16-17 year.
Right.
And so that's already, that would be in the
That's
budget already, right?
Correct.
So they would, I don't get it. So they would be full-time special, but maybe they would be part-time special ed teachers and part-time, so you're looking for the learning profile coach to be a new person.
Not necessarily,
Okay.
but if we,
That's the special ed part
Yeah.
that I was
If-
like, really?
if we use somebody within the district, then we'll hire for the position that they're presently in.
Gotcha. Okay, I see what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. So,
if a
so
current
perhaps
teacher were to become the learner
Correct.
profile, we would need to hire in somebody new to do
to
what that
cover the
current
other
teacher was
half
doing.
of that present teacher's schedule?
Well, if it was a classroom teacher, we'd be pulling the classroom teacher out of the position they're in.
Uh-huh.
And we'd have to fill that in. And then, because both the reading teacher and the profile coach could be, I mean, they could actually, the two
Be
of
one
those could be
person.
one.
Okay.
Or if we want to include some of the special ed components, we would hire 2 new people. Each would have a half-time special ed position from one of the special ed. And then they would also have either be a reading teacher or a profile coach.
Okay.
So I think that we can do it many different ways. I don't think we've just kind of talked about options. But we do realize, I mean, and maybe it would end up being the reading teacher and the profile coach. Those 2 halves would make a whole.
Okay.
But it could also be with special ed. And so we just understand that you're going to get a different applicant pool if it's a tenure track position that's going to be
Oh, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
full-time. And yeah, so,
Yeah.
so we're
okay.
trying to figure out the best way to do that. And it really depends on who the applicants are.
Okay.
And so I'm sure that, there are some quiet conversations at this point where people are sharing that they have an interest in the positions, that's starting, so.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Yellen his thing is Thursday, right? He's coming on Thursday. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm excited. I'll be at the focus group portion of it in the afternoon, so it seems pretty interesting. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick question about the Yellen focus group. Is that just for teachers? Is that open for
I don't know,
parents
actually.
too?
Well,
Just because it was just now mentioned.
yeah, this is actually, what we're talking about is what the educators within the district, what they want to see with the learning profiles. So it's not that, there will be time for that, because
that
he
would
will
be
be coming back a couple times next year, but right now we're trying to figure out what the profiles are going to look like. And as we begin to launch them next year, I mean, it's kind of an interesting situation to be in because we're trailblazers. And this is not something that exists in the way that it's being used in this district that we know of. And so there are prototypes that we can use that are out there and that have been used, but not the way that we're going to use them. So right now, the focus groups are bringing our educators in and saying, what do we want out of these profiles?
Okay.
But if I'm hearing that you may want to be,
No, I was just curious if it was specific to, I mean, you want to have that input from staff.
well, next year, I think is the right time, but we don't even know. We're just saying, okay, so what's this going to look like?
Right.
So,
Okay.
and then when we know,
So
we
stay
can do
tuned.
that. Yep.
That's good. And then my last comment is just, I think it's wonderful the GEA has been restored and wonderful that we have these opportunities now. And I just want to let the board know I've been attending the Fine Arts Booster Club meetings to learn more about what's going on in the arts. And I've been hearing from a lot of parents about this need for additional support in the music department. And I hope the board reaches out and speaks to our 2 talented music teachers to find out really what would help them the most to help the students. And my last comment is to give a plug to Katie Bissinger, who does an amazing job on the Fine Arts Booster Club. And it occurred to me, a lot of districts have full-time staff paid athletic directors and no full-time paid staff arts directors. And I realized Katie Bissinger has been doing that and fulfilling that role for our district. So I just wanted on camera to let Katie know that we all really appreciate what she does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
She
she
sure
does.
does.
Good shout out to Katie.
Okay, so let's go to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so first, the high school principal search. We are, at this point, we have over 60 candidates that have applied. We have recently placed an ad on the NISCUS website to enhance more opportunities for people to apply and understand that we are looking for a high school principal. I have already screened 10 people. I have additional screening interviews at the end of the week, and we'll be pulling from NISCUS and probably doing a few more the following week, and then we'll start bringing finalists in. We'll have committees that will meet with the finalists, and we have 3 groups right now. There's going to be a student group, a faculty group, and a parent community group. We've met with the students and the faculty at this point, and we asked them for characteristics, and we have both a faculty and a student list. We were going to meet with the community parent groups last night, but the snow and the ice and kind of stopped that, so we postponed it to Thursday. And so we will have a list for those groups, and I think that we're going to be dividing up our administrators, so they will be sitting on all of the committee groups. I guess we're going to be looking at putting board members, if anybody has an interest, as participants in those, so we have representation on all the groups as we go
So
through.
that everyone's clear, there are 3 different committees, right? There's the faculty and staff committee, there's the parent
And then a student.
and community, and then there's the student committee.
Right.
And our 3 administrators will be on one of those, right? And then we were talking about asking the board to also, there could be 2 of us on one. You know, if all 5 of us were available, and Diana will get the dates and times to us, but if all of us could be on one as well.
Or at least one per group.
One per group.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was thinking the same thing. I'll fight you for it.
Because I just think that it's, you know, I was considering like, wow, you know, the board might not get to see these people until the last 2, the finalists, and we're in charge of making the big choice. So it seems like we should be involved as soon as possible.
One of the things, I wouldn't normally have thought about the idea of a board person sitting in with the students, but the meeting we had with students was so phenomenal. And, you know, I don't know how this group has been put together, but it represented really diverse students. They were so clearly very comfortable with telling us things they did not like, as well as things that they liked. I think it could provide a really great lens, not for the board member to speak in that meeting, but to listen, and it would really be incredibly valuable.
Yes,
Yeah,
agreed.
we're just the kind of flies on the wall kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And also, I think we spoke about sharing the list of characteristics.
Yep.
So
So
we
that
can
will be
get
on the
that.
website, and once we have all 3. And so, there are a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences based on who they are. In the student group, we had a lunch meeting, and the people who chose to come just put their name on the list. So it was their option if they wanted to be part of it. And we had a good cross-section. So it was a fun and entertaining group of kids that were there. And after about 45 minutes, they were talking about all the interpersonal kind of relationship types thing. I said, anything academic you'd like?
But you know, we talked about this when you went through the list at the beginning of the strategic planning committee last year. I remember that first meeting where you talked about, like, there was that, the Wordle, and you talked about, like, all the things you had heard from the community and from students and from faculty. And one of the things I remember being said at one point was that a lot of times what people have that they're really happy about, like people don't often name what we already have as a given, as something that's accepted. I mean, and we talked about that I think a lot in the strategic planning committee, that was really talking about moving beyond what we already do, not that we don't want to do what we already do. Anyway.
So that's where we are.
Regarding the applicants, just in general, what are you finding as far as the assistant principals looking to become principals? Is that generally what it is?
Generally, it's assistant principals that want to become principals. We also have some principals that have come from different areas in the upstate region and that have an interest in it. But for them, but we have a number of APs that are local that are applying.
Are you happy? I mean, are you like?
I think we will have a good pool of candidates to choose from.
That's what I would have expected, to be honest. But
It's a good job.
Yep.
It's like stellar.
Yep. I think you'll be pleased with some of the finalists, or with the finalists.
So what's the timeline on that?
Well, we plan on the committee interviews will probably happen in the latter part of April. And then we will have hopefully the finalists to you for early May, and then probably the second board meeting in May. Hopefully we will have the new principal.
Okay.
We're looking at a July 1st start.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, just letting you know that we have, we finalized and submitted our blue ribbon application to the Federal Education Department. And so we should be, and they did send a couple of questions back to us that we were able to clarify. So they have our application, and it's in the process. So that's good. Next is a special meeting of the Board of Education will happen next week. It'll be executive session to talk about the employment history of a certain individual. So that will be taking place. Deadline for the trustees position for the Board of Education is due on Monday, the 18th of April at 5 o'clock. So if anybody is planning on picking up a petition and getting signatures, that's when it's due back. We have a community leaders meeting scheduled for the 19th of April if people would like to come in, and we'll be talking primarily about all the things we just talked about, the principal, the budget, just some of the new goals for the upcoming year. We're going to start transitioning into that, so if you have an interest, please join us. We're in the home ec room next door. We have a Board of Education workshop on the 19th, and hopefully at that point we'll be adopting the budget, and we will continue to move forward. We have voters registration is scheduled for Tuesday, the 12th of May from 4 to 8 in the corridor of the elementary middle school building, if anybody would like to register to vote. That also includes our 18-year-old students, and so we'll make sure that they have an opportunity to do so. The annual district meeting and the trustee elections are held on May 17th from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. So if you would come in and vote, we'd appreciate it. And the board will convene in the music room following the Arts Awards ceremony that night, so we know where we're going to, hopefully, what occurred in the latter part of that. We are also going to be talking about the second part of mindset and scheduling a time for parent conversation the following year.
I'm sorry, Dana, I think the date for voter registration might be incorrect.
It is the correct date. It should be Thursday. It's Thursday, May 12th.
Thursday, May 12th. Okay.
And just to clarify, you register that night, you can't vote the following Tuesday. You have to be registered significantly before, right?
No.
Not in a school election.
Registration for school, I don't want to go explain the whole thing, but registering for school elections is different from registering for political elections. So
the 18
anyone
kids
who
that got registered in class need to re-register?
No, they would be registered.
They're registered.
Yeah.
and they can vote because they were registered in the classroom in that class
Yeah,
that they
provided
take.
they're 18 years old, yeah.
But anybody who comes in now that registers on that Thursday prior, they're registering for a school election, but they can vote the following Tuesday?
They're only yes.
They can.
They're only registering for the school elections at that registration.
So then-
We'll give them a political registration form if they want one, but it's only for the school election.
Okay, but they can do it Thursday and vote on Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay,
That's what it's for. It's for voting on Tuesday,
Okay,
on the
thank
following
you.
Tuesday.
thank you.
And I think we missed
Testing.
number 3, testing
Oh, sorry.
refusals.
Going through. Yes, we did. I apologize. So today was the first day of the 3/8 testing, and as was the case last year, one of the things that we watched very closely was the number of students for the ELA that opted out or test refusals. And basically, from grades 3 through 7, we had anywhere from 10% to a little under 17% of the students that opted out. In grade 8, we had 46.2 of our students opted out. So I think that there were probably some different dynamics going on there as students are moving into the upper grades and about to head into high school. I think that more of the decision was probably theirs. And so we did see a significant number, almost half of our students opted out in 8th grade.
But isn't that because of the algebra?
Well, that
What?
could be part of it, and we do, but this is ELA.
Oh, ELA.
So it's a little bit, we're not sure, and that may be part of it because they're taking Regents level classes, but this is the ELA exam, so we're not quite sure. We had something similar in the upper grades last year. More kids would choose, and then we anticipate that we may see more when we get to the math.
When a student, can they just walk in and say, I refuse, or it's the parent that has to contact you?
Well, the parent has to contact us, and if the student walks in and says, I opt out, then we call the parent.
Okay.
So we make sure that the parent agrees and is in the know. And there are some times where we call the parent and the parent says it's time to go back to the test.
Right.
And they do that, but.
Okay.
So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll let you know. I think that we have, from what I gather, smaller percentages than most neighboring districts. So this is going to be an interesting year to see how this all plays out.
Are we in danger of losing any funding because of this?
No, there is no funding tied to it, but what we will lose, because we will not have the 95% participation rate, we would not be eligible to receive certain levels of support. Grants, yes. So if because we are not seen, we do not have the ability to make AYP, there are certain things that won't come to the district, but that would only be in grades 3 through 8. One of the things that we have to make AYP at the high school level in order to receive the National Blue Ribbon, and this doesn't impact the high school AYP.
It's interesting because, the standardized tests that we do in New York State are the Regents exams. There's these end of course exams, and so it's just hearing that. It's just a different phenomenon.
Yes,
We
it
have a
is
long
very
meeting, I don't want to get sidetracked, but it's those 8th graders, pretty much their last opportunity to opt out of a Regents exam because you have to take Regents exams to graduate from high school in New York
Right.
State.
And we did initially, I think we did receive one for the Regents exams, and then we just had to call and explain the differences.
What is the overall, can you pinpoint a specific concern or concerns?
I just think that from what we gather and from what we're hearing out there is just the reform agenda became such a negative that people just want to see it go away and start again. So I think that's where we are.
Okay. Moving into committee minutes. We have the buildings and grounds from 224, wellness 37, safety 314. There was a buildings and grounds meeting last week, but I don't think we have the minutes from it yet, right, Laura?
Don't believe so. Mike did take minutes.
Okay, so
just
they're,
didn't
We
get-
do have
They're
them,
coming.
but, yeah,
They're
maybe they
coming.
didn't make it on here yet.
and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the buildings and grounds issues later in the agenda that you can elaborate on for us. Okay, is there any communication from the public? Moving into correspondence, there is a letter from Ms. Catherine Diggs that's referring to parking. And there's a thank you letter to the Haldane Board of Education from the Haldane Language Department. We're going into the consent agenda minutes. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion?
Second?
Any discussion? This is for the minutes from the Board of Education meeting held on March 15th, 2016. All those in favor? Aye. Consent agenda financial. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Any discussion? I know we talked through the New Tech Network school agreement. I don't know if anyone has anything further to ask about on that topic. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Consent agenda personnel. Can I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second?
Any discussion? I'd like to point out for the public that there is the approval for the memorandum of agreement between the Haldane Administrators Association and the Haldane Board of Education for the periods of July 16th through June 30th, 21. That sounds far away, but it's not that far. And so that's basically the contract with the HAA. We are really happy to say that that was smooth sailing. Everybody came to a happy agreement, and that is on the agenda for approval tonight. Yeah, maybe. Still on our agenda is the contract with the civil service. That's still on our immediate agenda, but the HAA is, I think we're good to go.
Now, I would also like to highlight one of the components of this. Susan McKell was planning on graduating. Well, I guess she was planning on retiring at the end of the year, and that got pushed up a little bit, so we just wish her well.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Going into unfinished business, talking about the new administrative makeup. So last summer, at the beginning of this school year, we implemented a new administrative reorganization, right? We asked Brent Harrington to go from K through 8 principal to be K through 5 principal. We asked Julia Sniffen to go from being assistant principal K through 8 into middle school principal, as well as CIO. And we also created a new PPS director with Ellen Hackett. And we said we would come together in February, do like a 6-month check-in, see how that's going. And we did that. We met with all of the administrators. And so now we've kind of got a chance to discuss it all, but it's an opportunity for us to let the public know how that all shook out for us, and to let Dr. Bowers know if she has our approval to move forward with those positions and with the makeup as it is. So does anybody have anything they'd like to share about that? Maybe we can just kind of go around, and I know that seems like a long time ago that we had that executive session, but maybe Peggy, do you want to start?
Well, my memory is that I was not particularly articulate that night, but I have had a chance to think about it some more. And I mean, I think one of the things I see happening, and that I just want to acknowledge that I feel like we heard from the administrators, was that splitting the responsibilities in the K-8 building is working out well. I think there had been some talk about about just of efficiencies, but what really hit me in that meeting was how really distinct developmentally those ages are. That K-5, I mean, it's huge, but K-5 and 6-8 are really different. And, you know, we have two administrators, really skilled administrators at each one of those levels. And I feel like the change gives them a chance to really take on the challenges of what we're wanting to do with instruction in a way that's focused in a good way. So that's my take.
And I'm going to agree with Peggy, and also just how education has evolved over the years. There's so much more than what we realize, and it was good to hear directly from the administrators the hard work that each of them are working on and developing within their units, and allowing them to really focus in on their particular unit and the differences in the primary grades versus the middle school and so on. So
Their expertise can be really targeted to that area.
Oh, and we also talked about the technology integration specialist. Not that that necessarily needs our approval or anything, but we did kind of touch base about that as well. So if you have any comments you want to share, keep going, Margaret.
All the same. I think everything everybody said in those meetings was well heard, well understood, and go for what you need to do.
Yeah. What Ms. Sniffen talked about, the middle school teachers really having a sense of a home, so to speak, really was good to hear. And again, what the way Brent put it, Mr. Harrington put it, about having a real K through 5 versus 6 through 8 model now, it's positive. So, and on the other position, that was positive as well. Seems like she's off to a good start, building relationships with parents. And
Ellen Hackett, the
Ellen.
PBS director.
Yeah, yeah. And so that seems to be going well as well. So, I mean, yeah.
Are we going to continue with the tech the way it is too, with Simon and Leah? That's going to continue one more year, contingent on how it goes, and then could we continue again?
And that's in the budget as is.
So it sounds like, we're all in agreement that it's working. It seems to be working. The administrators are happy about how things are going. Parents are happy. We're happy as a board. So I feel like, you've got our thumbs up. And a big thank you to our administrators for taking on the new challenges. It's not an easy ask to be shifted and to learn new parts of their job, and maybe have to give up things that they really liked about their job. So I think it's a testament to them as well to jump in and make it a success, and a testament to Dr. Bowers for having the foresight to suggest these changes, but also the mentorship, because you're guiding all of these changes. So if they're working, that's also because you're helping make them work. So
They're easy
thank you
people
to Dr. Bowers.
to support.
And thanks to the administrators. That was a long evening. Because we met with them individually, people were there for a while. It was a big ask, and they were very generous.
Good. Okay. Sounds
Not that
like
we really gave them a choice. But
I was just going to say, we didn't give them an option.
dinner.
dinner.
We did have one of our delicious dinners.
Okay, so sounds like we're thumbs up with that. Going into number 2, the approval of the Haldane Central School District Calendar 2016 to 17. I know this has gone through some conversations and some vetting for the big shift. Really of note was the 2-hour delays for professional development. And I know Dr. Bowers has had many conversations with parents and with the PTA about making sure that that works for everybody. And the board was really, it was important to us that the teachers could have what they needed, but that it wasn't a burden to the parents. And I think we have found the happy medium, or Dr. Bowers has. And do you want to just share anything that you'll be anything about those 2-hour delays?
Sure. We do have, and I sent a letter to the community, and then we also had follow-up conversations, but we have scheduled 5 2-hour delays in order to give our teachers time to come together and work on units of study and work together with some of the changes throughout next year. So one of the things we talked about is whether or not we are going to be able to accommodate some of the needs of the families, and yes, we are going to do that. And that will include having a program here that we can, that parents need to get to work, that the children can either be dropped off. We were also talking about sending a double bus run that morning. And so we will ask parents to let us know if they plan on doing that and enroll the students in the 2-hour delay programs early on in the year, so we know how many students we're going to have, and then we'll plan accordingly. But we want it to be a beneficial, kind of supportive program for the students that do come in, and for those that come in 2 hours later, it'll be business as usual.
But there will be one less superintendent's conference day.
Yes, thank you. Very important point that
Yeah.
I neglected, so sorry about that. Yes, there will be one less superintendent's conference day next year, and we're kind of trading off the conference day for the 5 2-hour delays.
Okay. So it sounds like does anybody have any more questions about that, or can we go ahead and go through the vote? Go ahead, Julia, do you want to
Sure.
read that?
The recommended action is that the Board of Education approves the Haldane Central School District calendar for 2016-17 as presented.
May I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second?
Any further discussion?
Just if they can, the copy, just so for our records, it's actually not on board docs, the actual final copy.
Oh.
So if
okay.
they can just upload that.
Thank you.
Of the actual
The calendar is not.
Oh, we've
it's not-
seen it.
The attachment's, we've seen it, but
Yes,
the
it
attachment's
should
not
be
on
there.
this agenda, so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Evan. Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're going to be going into, I think you already mentioned this in your superintendent's report, our executive session. Okay. Okay, so talking about the buildings and grounds a little bit more. So last meeting, we were met with some community members who had some concerns about parking and traffic in general, and traffic patterns and bus patterns and around the school. And it's not an issue that's only come to us. I believe they've also taken their concerns to the village board. It's also not a new issue. It's something that's kind of come up and gone away throughout the years. But we talked a lot about realizing that it's an important issue that we should address, and we should be part of the solution with, and want to be part of the solution with. And the Buildings and Grounds Committee addressed it a little bit more directly, so I'm just going to let Laura speak, and I know Diana, you were there as well, so if you have anything to say about it. But
So we had a Buildings and Ground Committee meeting last week, and prior to that, parking had been on our plan, part of the 5-year plan. So we had been having these discussions before community members had come voice their opinions. So after that, we came back to the Buildings and Ground Committee and really tried to put our minds together to come up with some solutions. And I went to the Village Parking Committee meeting yesterday and asked for some support so that they may also have some input and suggestions as to what we can do and work together and come up with some ideas. So Mike Twardy has started to get some pricing. There's possibility of putting some parking behind the high school. So he's working on that. And hopefully we can come up with some other solutions. I've invited some of the folks that were at the village meeting last night, and they're willing to come and help us work together and figure out what's going to work best. So
So it's primarily student parking, right? I mean, because we got rid of all the parking that had been on that road to the Mabel Merritt building. I mean, I don't know how long ago it was, but it used to be students were parked all along there. Oops. And now there's those boulders there.
Yeah.
Of course, my thought is let's make everybody park on Main Street and walk.
And the
You
other,
could just you could just make it be 4-hour parking so that parents, I don't know. I mean, a parking lot, because a parking lot, that's a lot of, I mean, I don't know how much money it is. But yeah.
well, that's why we asked Mike to come up with some figures, and it's not going to be a paved parking area, so the figures may not be as crazy as we think. There's also been suggestions about using the 9D field. That's empty, and so but then the flip side of it is that the community uses that area during snow parking. So we really have to, that's why I went to the meeting, for the village meeting last night, in hopes that we can all brainstorm and come up with some good solutions. And it's not just parking, it's the traffic and the congestion, because we did change our traffic patterns. We no longer allow parents to come through the Cedar Street, and it's caused some issues in the Mountain Avenue area.
What issues?
Dropping off.
What issues?
Parents are dropping off in blocking driveways, and so we have to kind of
I don't know.
monitor.
This might be me. This might be just me being naive about what's going on, but I don't know. I just first of all, even if you build a parking lot, okay, or you say 9D is a lot, all right, like, can you make students? Like, are you actually going to say students can't park there? Anyone else in the world can park there, but except for students at Haldane.
But the students are going to want to park where they're proposing because it's significantly closer.
Yes, maybe not. Not if it's not paved, okay? Not if, I mean, it depends how big it is, how crowded it is. I don't know. I just feel as though I'm very rarely at the school during the day, very rarely. But if ever I was.
You're lucky.
Okay, but if ever.
There's no, it's impossible if you have to run in.
But that's actually what I was gonna say. Like when we came to that meeting, when we met with the students, okay, we met with the students, I think it was like 8:30, I think we got here. I parked right off of Mountain Road, okay, and in the area, but I got a spot, 2 seconds. So there's parking there. So I go back to the initial thing, again, the issue of students parking driveways, is that really a problem, or did that happen once? Okay? And I go back to the issue that if students are blocking driveways, they should be ticketed and or towed. Okay? And I don't say that meanly. I don't want people ticketed or towed, but I think if they have a license to drive, they should be responsible enough to know what a driveway is. Okay?
Absolutely.
And so I don't know. I just feel as though, and then traffic. It's a road. It's a public road.
No.
But you know what I mean?
I don't want to be insensitive.
I don't want to be insensitive.
You need to just come hang out at the Blacktop and on Mountain Avenue, like from say 2:55 till about 3:10.
Okay, what
And
happened?
just see what goes down.
To 8:45.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a little bit intense for our little streets to handle. There's a lot going on.
But what, enlighten me a little bit. What's so, okay, so for 45 minutes there's some traffic on the road. What exactly is the problem?
The problem is,
and I don't say me. You live in the area, so I'm not trying to be mean and insensitive.
Yeah.
I'm being serious. Like, what's the problem that there are cars on the road between 2:15 and 3:10? Like, what's the problem with that?
the problem is that it's a lot of traffic, and that kids and young children, not even like school-age children, are with their families, and they're trying to cross the street, and it's dangerous, and cars are blocking driveways, and you're not supposed to park here places for
But
20 minutes when people who live there need to get out of their driveways, and it's
Cars are trying to get in front of the buses, like there's a whole
and
line of
cars are
buses
trying
that are
to
coming,
exit.
And there are cars that are like, oh,
Well-
if I don't get in front of them, I'm gonna have
Well-
to wait here for 5 minutes,
Well-
so there's speeding happening.
So
That's
I mean, I'm just saying,
exactly
if we,
right.
I just got the
Lots of
sense,
speeding.
if the sense is, if we're saying from our sake that there's a safety issue, that the kids are in jeopardy, that's one thing, but that's not the sense that I got from that. The issue was just that there's
But
too
they're
many
just
cars on the road.
They're giving you a snapshot. They're giving you their personal perspective. Like, it's a multi-layered issue, right? And what I mean, what my sense is, and we would have to decide this as a board, but my feeling is, it's not only our problem, right? It's a village problem as well as a school problem.
Thank you for going to that meeting.
But it's about, how can we be good neighbors, and how can we work together to come up with solutions. So if Haldane provided more parking for the students, we can take that issue off the table. Then people can't complain that there's no parking and all the students are now parking on Mountain Avenue. And I think that it's multi-layered. I don't think it's just students. I think there are parents who are abusing parking situations. Their parents are the ones pulling in front of these people's driveways as well to run in and get kids. Right. And are we the police of every parent? No, but we need to do our part, I think, to be part of the solution.
But why, so you went to the parking committee. I mean, why is
One
it
of
such?
the concerns was safety. Mr. Sari was there again at the village parking committee, and he brought up that he's witnessed many issues in regards to safety.
So why is this? So enlighten me again. Why if there's an issue at this time that people are parking driveways, they're double parking that's causing a safety concern. Why are the police not there and just ticketing people? Like, why is that not happening?
Well, Mr. Sari did tell us last night that the police are there, and they were issuing tickets,
Okay.
but that only solves part of the problem. There's, again, the issue of the buses coming out and the kids trying to cross while the buses are coming out, and the parents that are picking up because they don't want to do the circle pickup, and there's multi-layer, as Jen said, and that's why I asked, it's not solely Haldane's issue, but we need to work with the community, the village, to try to figure out the best solutions, and hopefully, and the parking on the school grounds, if you're a parent who has to come here, you really don't ever get the possibility to park on school grounds. So we do have to figure
We
out,
have to increase visitor parking.
right.
I always come 10 minutes early and just park by Main Street and
What
walk.
if you had a system?
I
in-
park up by the
what-
district office, and I feel like I'm a board
What-
member. I'm sure I'm not going to get ticketed.
What if you had a system? I mean, I don't know if this is crazy, but what if you had a system in place where students were not allowed to exit at all off of Mountain Road? Like, they had to go down, or maybe you have some type of, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you didn't allow the students to get past the blacktop, to go out that way, to meet the parents that are waiting for them there, then the parents would have to come around the circle. So if you had a system in place where you didn't let students pass the blacktop, like you can only exit the facility down.
You would have a row of cars, like all the way to 9D.
But listen to what you're saying. You're saying that you're complaining. We're complaining that the parents are picking them up over there, and then if we come up with a system that's going to prevent them from picking them up over there, we're saying, well, that'd be crazy. All the parents would be down to 9D. You know what I'm saying? So we're complaining that they're picking them up on Mountain Road, but then
But
we're
they
saying
can
if they didn't pick them
park
up
on
on Mountain
Mountain
Road,
Road.
we'd have a line down to 9D.
They park on Mountain Road and walk to the blacktop to get their kids. There's nowhere to park on.
And if we had another parking space for the high
Oh, they-
schoolers,
They park on
that
Mountain
would
Road.
pull those 20 cars off Mountain Avenue.
That's right.
And allow the parents 20 spaces so they wouldn't be blocking driveways.
That's right.
That's the logic. Correct.
Will it work? I don't know, but we have
but
to.
that's the
If we don't try it, and there's a whole bunch of things we can talk about. Parking permits. Does every kid get the ability to park? Maybe not. So there's like so many possible solutions, but I think that the first step is the board kind of saying, okay, we agree that this is an issue that needs to get addressed, and then meeting maybe a committee of people to come with a recommendation to us about this is what we would suggest and this is how much it's going to cost.
That's in the process. We
Yeah.
are getting those numbers together. And I think they came in favorably. I think we'll be able to meet some of the requirements.
Could we maybe do a, when we know it's gonna be nice, maybe like in mid-May, do like a
Board field trip?
board field trip, meet in the areas that we're talking about?
I think Mr. Piazza would love if we did that, so maybe he would
you
get
be our
some
tour
slack.
So get a sense of like what area we're talking about for this parking lot and.
Maybe we should do it at 2:55 so that you can see.
You know what? I'm around
The
the week at the
dynamic.
end of April. I'm gonna take you up. Jen, I'm gonna meet you. The end of April, I'm off that week.
I'm telling you.
Okay, so I'll be in
Come
touch with
do-
you. I will
come do
meet
pick
you.
up with me.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll walk you.
Yep.
I'll meet you at your house. We'll walk up together and you'll
Yep.
show me the whole
I'll show you.
scene.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still
I'm in.
field trip with Mr. Piazza.
Yeah.
Yes, we still have to do that.
That too.
We still need to do that.
Yeah.
Like in May, one of the May like maybe the first May meeting, because May 18th is the budget. So
Yeah.
maybe the first May meeting, we can meet at like 6:00, and we can do a little
And actually,
field trip.
Evan, just so you know, this area that they're talking about, there's already gravel there. I mean, they would have to do work to it, but it's not something that,
Okay.
would just,
I think there are some kids who already try to park up there. I've heard.
you heard.
Really?
I've heard, yeah, yeah.
No,
So they would do it. They would totally do it.
I think they would do it.
Yeah.
They would love
It's
to do it.
closer for them, all these kids that are hauling around their athletic equipment, they're moving their cars during breaks so that it's different times and then they come back and their spot isn't there, then they're late. I think if they knew that there were 20 spots there and there are 20 kids who usually drive their cars, well, if they're not one of the first 20, yes, they park on Mountain Avenue. I think they'd be thrilled to go back there. And rocks, they don't care. I'm telling you, my kid drives, he does not care if the rocks bounce up and hit my car.
So it sounds like it's a conversation that needs to continue and that the board wants it to continue. And next steps are getting information from Mike about how much it will really cost.
That's
and continuing to have some inroads with the village in terms of making this a group process.
Right, and there was also a blurb from the village last night of, I guess they put a patrol officer up there to observe in order to see if there's a possibility of making one-way streets. So these are things that we need to talk about and discuss. We can't, we want to be part of the process is
Right.
what, so.
Lively discussion, parking. Okay, just a reminder that we're going to finish our Mindset book read chat on May 17th while we are awaiting the election and budget results. Any communication from the public? Please.
I just wanted to ask about with next year's calendar with the 2-hour delay. It sounds as though the decision about what actually would happen with the students, it sort of depends upon how many students would students have to sign up, or would parents sign their kids up for
They
it?
have to enroll them.
Okay.
into the
And do you
process.
have any plan, any semi-plan or anything as far as like who would be supervising or what would be happening during that time?
Well, the teaching assistants and the aides will be here, but they would not necessarily be taking part in the planning process. So it will be within their hours, so they would be the people
Okay.
that are
Teaching
coordinating.
assistants as well?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that they would
Well,
want to be a part of that process
we-
since they're mostly in the classroom.
We haven't finalized, but we'll have to see. I mean, if
Okay.
there's a need for them, but there are some that there will not be a need for. And so the people who are here and are normally here for those hours will be available for the kids.
Okay.
And then there was also some discussion about National Honor Society or,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
so we'll see.
All right, okay, thanks.
Okay, we're moving into new business. Julia, would you like to read?
Yes. These are the CSE, CPSE recommendations, and the recommended action is that the Board of Education approves the recommendations of the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Special Education as indicated.
Can I have a motion, please?
I don't have an attachment. It's not an
It's-
attachment, it's in the.
It's in the body
it's
of
in
the.
body.
Do you
And
have
it's all
that?
these, it's not real IDs. It's in
Just
the body of
numbers.
the Public content.
Oh, I see.
Motion.
I'll second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Did you, I'm sorry, Margaret, did you get?
No, I'm just reading. All right, all it says is these.
Yeah, it just says their
these are their numbers, and this we recommend that
Yeah,
they get special
yeah.
services. Yes, I totally trust their judgment. Aye.
Good. The approval of the proclamation from the Putnam County Sheriff's Office declaring April the month of Teen Driver Safety Awareness Month in Putnam County. We'll have to talk to our teen drivers about their parking. Parking regulations
Driving around the, on the streets
and the
around
speeding around school. Okay, Julia, do you want to read that?
Yes, the recommended action is that the Board of Education approves the attached proclamation received from the office of the Putnam County Sheriff Donald B. Smith and declares the month of April 2016 as Teen Driver Safety Awareness Month in Putnam County.
Can I have a motion, please?
Second.
Any discussion? Are we doing anything at Haldane besides proclaiming this? Are there like events or?
No, we haven't. This is just something we do on a regular basis to proclaim it, and then if we need to remind students what,
It sounds like this might be a good reminder month.
then we can do that.
Okay.
Well, I mean, just not to beat the parking thing, but you know, I mean, it is one of these issues that just whether it's around the circle or it comes up repeatedly, but you know what? It means that we're not everybody's being good citizens about driving safe. And, you know, we have little kids and parents with strollers and, you know, I mean, and the roads are all those roads are super narrow. I mean, it's, yeah,
And we have precious cargo out there, so we
And we
want to make
do.
sure that everyone's safe.
yeah, so.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Make my kid finally take his driving test.
Annual district meeting on May 17th. Okay, so we talked a bit about this. This came up last meeting. It was Julia sent us some information via email about the opening and closing of the polls and the rules and regulations around that.
So you and I have to do that, right? You can do it, but I can be your backup, because you three can't, right?
Well, okay,
We
so the rules state that any one of us can. There's no rule against somebody who's running for re-election doing it. But what we're saying, or what I'm saying personally, is that I think that we should just take that issue off the table, any sense of inappropriateness. And if you're running for re-election, you should not be opening and closing the polls. It has been the culture of the board, correct me if I'm wrong, that the president has always opened and closed the polls, regardless of if that person was running for election or not. That's just been the culture of what we've done here at Haldane. But it kind of has come up, and I personally would feel more comfortable not opening and closing the polls since I'm running for re-election, and I would like to ask our vice president to do the duty. So that's my feeling on it. Does anybody have any thoughts one way or the other on the topic?
I'd be happy to do it.
I think that makes sense.
Evan, do you mind opening and closing the
No,
polls?
not at all. So
7
7 a.m. Yeah. 7 a.m. That's late.
Evan's like, I'm gonna take a personal
later than I
day.
normally do. So that's no problem.
Okay, so you'll be in. So Julia will be in touch with Evan, and Margaret will
I'll be
be
the backup plan.
Evan's backup plan if needed.
Anything goes awry.
Okay.
You shouldn't probably have any problem with parking at that hour.
No, I'm gonna park on Mountain Road.
Now,
The Bell Lot will be empty.
park in a teacher's spot. I dare you. I dare you.
At the Bell Light, yeah. Oh, right,
Any-
because we do have parking.
Any further communication from the public? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, very good. Thank you.